So put back on like, is there going to be some like ultimate day of a showdown where now you're going to have to use your gun to protect yourself against the government or something? Like, I don't understand what the pushback is on that. Like, it's just a matter of just like having a more sane and safe society and doing it in a way where, yes, you get to keep your guns and also keep it out of the hands of people that shouldn't have it. Like, I don't think it's a right for people who intend to kill people unjustly to have guns. Like, certain people should not have guns. Like, that's not how it has to be. Like, it can't be like, well, it's a human right, so everybody should have it. As a foregone conclusion.
So, Cedric, I'm gonna give I encourage you to look this up, and it's no like source. Like I said, I'll welcome all sides. And I have my side, and I could be wrong. However, I'm going to have you look up the Battle of Athens. Not the one in Greece. I'm talking about the Athens, Tennessee, where a group of civilians, particularly veterans, were pissed off about the oppression of civil rights, the oppression of, voters and Democrats holding a demagoguery. And, those civilians waged war in the town. They went shot to the point where the governor was like sending out the National Guard going, what's going on here? And these veterans pushed back. The multiple, and not just veterans, but the civilian population, because they were armed, pushed back and drove away these crooked politicians that were doing a lot of BS. It's a really fascinating tale of the U.S. And there's many other stories that are kind of similar like this. The bonus pay revolution is another one for World War I vets. You should look at that one. That's another time when Americans have taken arms and kind of pushed back against the government and sought to seek refuge, and actually have won in some of these cases. So it's not just like, they couldn't defy it. They did. But furthermore, people often leave this up because they're urban or suburban centric on their view. Yes, the majority of people live in very close-knit urban populations. And I agree with you. This is probably a source of problems. However, people forget the giant landmass that is the United States. And they forget that there's not only two-legged predators, but oftentimes there's not help out in the rural areas. Like, help is not coming within 5 minutes. It's a half hour to an hour. Yeah, you're on your own, and you have to defend yourself against four-legged critters, as well as the two-legged kind that come out there and say, hey, we're gonna mess around here because guess what? I can do this and know that I can get away before the police even come to the area to start their investigation.
With all due respect, then how does Australia survive that?
Australia really doesn't. If you actually go into the bush, Australia manipulates its numbers and manipulates it, but they have no problem glossing over the fact that they just like to murder fucking indigenous tribal people, black people in that region.
No, don't get me wrong. I'll call them out on that all day. What they do to the Aboriginals is terrible, but at the same time, the argument is fighting against the wildlife. The Australians have had guns banned since '94, and they've survived the outback for I don't know how long now.
But they also give carve-outs only to certain people, like what Mr. Carver.
Yeah, like my buddy Harry, Brad. My buddy Harry's got that, and he has to keep the gun and the bullets in separate safes, which just to me doesn't make any sense. Like, what fucking use is a gun if it doesn't have any bullets in it? So there was the question posed about, essentially what are a bunch of hits with AR-15s and lever action rifles going to do to the federal government? Prescient's answer is consider Afghanistan. Those people were largely supplied with small arms, a few Stingers they were able to keep from the Soviet-Afghan War of the 1980s, and IEDs. And they managed to hold off one of the largest military invasions in its history for about 20 years. Right? It's not that you can't do it. A lot of people will probably die if that ever came to it. But it is possible. Also,
Marshall. Granted, the terrain. Correct me if I'm incorrect on this, but the terrain is definitely a factor there, Marshall. It's not just the fact that they have to know
one of the biggest factors. Same thing in
the terrain.
Same thing in Vietnam. It was the terrain.
Yeah, and it had a lot to do with the terrain. I'm just gonna say, where I live and when I go to the ranch, I'm 40 minutes away from police help. And if I'm going to go walking around on my land, I take a pistol or a rifle. I take a pistol and a rifle. A pistol in case I run into rattlesnakes, and a rifle in case I run into packs of hogs. Like, they're invasive species in Texas, and they really are little destructive critters. And so that's like a common thing. I also, at least for my money, I think suburbs and rural areas view guns a little differently. I'm going to use Dallas as an example. Dallas is full of a bunch of hoity-toity people, but people my grandmother called dime store cowboys. The folks who get the gun and got to put it on their hip, and it's an appendage, and it's so cool, look at me. Versus rural areas, you know, like where Brett's from and where I'm from, where if I'm looking in my safe and I need to go kill a nil guy and the hog, I need 2 different weapons for that. A nil guy, I need 308, and they're invasive species here too. And like to take a hog, I need a 223. And they're viewed more as tools, like a shovel or a rake. I realize that's not exactly like a one-to-one comparison, but that's, at least where I live in Texas, that's the thing I've noticed is like one of the biggest differences between gun owners in big cities and gun owners that live in rural areas.
And
right? Like it's primarily one views it as an appendage and the other views it as a shovel or like a pick.
I know you spoke to my point, and this is and this kind of gets to the hard part, because don't get me wrong, I agree with y'all when we say certain people shouldn't have guns, right? Certain people, or the crazies, or the idiots, right? But this still goes back to, how do you determine who was the idiot and who is crazy, right? Because even me sitting up here, I can sit here and look down the road at Jim Bob, who sits there and chews cud and cuts and spits, and he talks with a real deep Southern Creole accent, and I know he can't read. Does he lose his access to guns? Try the other hands. Is he now an idiot and has the right to not carry his gun, even though he's living out in the woods where the boars, bears, and possums and stuff are? This once again goes back to who is determining who's the idiot, who's crazy, and who doesn't have the right. Because, like I said, we can sit here and talk all day about certain people not having guns. But who are the people that get to determine what those people are, what they look like, how they speak, and how they look? And I have yet to get an answer.
I got an answer. So, if you have regulations, right? Billy Bob, I grew up in rural America, and we had a rifle critters, right, that we rarely used. So you could classify certain weapons, right, for certain usage, right? So, for example, I am pro people owning guns to protect their houses. I am pro that, because again, lived in the middle of nowhere, well, not really the middle of nowhere, but you get what I'm saying, right? Rifles are a thing, right? Especially being in the rural South when racism was a thing and white people were really crazy, and they, you know what I'm saying, they would knock if you buck. You needed a rifle to fend yourself off from the crazy bastards, right? The racism, right? And so I'm for that, right? But as a law enforcement professional, I do not like handguns in urban areas. I don't care who's carrying them. I hated them. Hated. Because at any given moment, all I needed was one idiot, right? Thank God it never happened. That's all I needed. And that's all I thought about when my city, encouraged concealed carry and changed the rules and then did open carry, right? That's what I thought about. So you can definitely have regulations saying that, for this situation, that, this situation, that. And you can do licensing, right? And renewals. Like, this is what regulation looks like, right? As a pilot, not all pilots can fly my plane. You have a certain type of licensure to fly my plane, right? But any private pilot can fly a single engine auto jumper, right? It's called regulation. It sounds a bad word, but it's my favorite.
Yeah, can I answer? I think we already have identified which people we think are crazy. Like, for any kind of regulation, you can always ask this question, like, who gets to decide? And I feel like it's a bit of an empty question. Like, it seems legitimate, but it's like, then any kind of regulation for anything because, well, somebody will be deciding and they have a bias, so, whatever it is. Pertaining to this conversation, I think I don't really see where that bias would be, especially if you're worried about like a racial bias. Of course, I think that can always play into everything because I think racist people inject their racist bias into everything, right? That their lives are involved in. So if you have a racist person involved in the decision making, then yeah, I think that they might inject something into that. But if we focus on the type of profile that we're discussing in this conversation, like someone that glorifies violence, thinks chaotic violence is a good thing. Anyone that's showing any signs of that online and expressing those kind of things, maybe we'll try to have other processes added to it where they take a deeper look into the individual. But someone like that, and they start taking actual actions towards obtaining weapons, and they seem completely serious about this way of thinking that using these type of weapons to kill people is a good thing, or it's something that is like some kind of amusement or something. I think it's fine. It might not sound totally solid, but every single one of these people that do end up killing a bunch of people with guns do tend to like express some of these or show some of these signs of expressing these kind of ideas. So I think there should be like at least one way of like targeting the kinds of people that should have.
So you're saying that we need to go out and hire a completely new force that goes into the social media of every single American, flags them and puts them on the list? Are there going to be something where they get a notification saying, hey, you shared this post about defending your home, and in the skit, this person violently defended their home, but you were very much advocating for the violence against the person who broke in. So therefore, we're going to put you on a list and ban you from purchasing a gun?
So you're totally like twisting what twisting what I just said. Like someone that's defending their home would not be outrageous.
That's not what I said. I'm not talking about the person defending their home. I'm talking about, as he said, on social media. Because there's been plenty of videos where I've seen men approaching women on social media, and I said, couldn't be me. I blow a motherfucker away. So for the homes, I'll be able to use them as a sprinkler system. Does that mean that because I have shown that violence? Cedric, I didn't interrupt you. But I did not interrupt you. If I said online and I said could not be me because if somebody ran up on me in the middle of the night, I would blow them so full of holes that I'll be able to shove a sprinkler if they ask and use them to water my front lawn. Does that mean that I should lose the right to carry my gun because I've expressed holy amounts of violence? I'm not going to be afraid to say it. Miss Clark get on this app and say it every day. Women don't argue with men. Just click, boom. When they put their hands on you, click, boom. When they get in your face. Stop arguing with people and tell them to back up, leave you alone. Click, boom. Does that mean that I have the right to lose my gun rights? Because I openly express violence on this app towards people.
No, except for what you just said, like someone just speaking to you and you just shoot them. I think that is kind of crazy. I don't think that's something that you actually say that you actually do something.
Yeah, that's just you coming up yelling at me, screaming at me, and doing all things. That's violence.
You would shoot someone that you can scream at you for this stuff? Yeah, you can shoot someone for yelling. Listen, I'm not saying, look, I would say that necessarily rises to the level of someone being insane or sounding totally crazy. These are people that express that type of violence where they are initiating it, right? They're going after people that are just living their everyday, lives, right? It's not like any kind of a defensive sort of scenario or anything. So no, I'm not saying anything that can be twisted or misconstrued as, oh, you're a violent person, or you're violent. It should be. We have to be more. We have to be more specific.
On it, I'll help on this. The judgment's being made already. It's how law enforcement operates, and you have AI that's tracking social media. So what you just said, and if you say that kind of comment over and over, there are trigger words that are tracked and are flagged, and it gets flagged. And yeah, that's your future, and that's the future that's happening. Is what law enforcement is using to try to catch terrorist threats, or to try to catch where hate cells and problems permeate. And more they're relying on AI for things like chat rooms and social media. If you're posting something like that, or you say something that's highly aggressive, it will get flagged. I mean, whether you like it or not, that's the future of how they are intelligence gathering. So just realize that. Also, I wanted to add to the conversation that not all these people necessarily show mental illness. And I put this in the chat. I mean, the worst shooting we've had in the United States, the biggest shooting where over 500 people got shot and 58 people died, was not a guy that had any terrorist threats, no political agenda at all. The only thing that finally came out afterwards was that he had retreated somewhat from his girlfriend and his family, and he was at wealth, and he was using a lot of his money to play poker slots. I mean, that's about it. But not all of them are something you can catch in advance. No one would have had him on the radar, and he wasn't posting dangerous or hateful or aggressive statements online. But they are definitely looking for that now, and it's AI generated. It's how law enforcement tracks.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just basically agreeing with that point of view. That I wasn't necessarily saying that like it's gonna solve the whole problem, but you should at least start somewhere, right? You should at least make the effort to reduce these kind of things. And I think sometimes there are obvious signs that for some reason get ignored. Like I don't know why they don't stop some of these people from getting done.
They just are going to go on the radar of law enforcement. That's just what's going to happen.
Stop them when they proceed to act on it.
And the intelligence is out there. They're also going to track people that threaten the government. I mean, again, it's trigger words. It's computers that find this, and their algorithms that
But they can't just track it, is what I'm saying. They need to act on it.
I've been trying to get in for a while. Abby, that sounds good. It just seems like we need a little bit more of a unified depository for the flags, or for the trigger words and the flags. It seems like they're a little bit compartmentalized, when it comes to school system,
I'll make
military.
you feel good about it, Holly. I'll tell you where it is. There's 79 fusion centers in the United States, and Google the word fusion center and read what they are. And they actually are tracking counterterrorism and tracking cyber issues. And the fusion centers are a combination of FBI, your local law enforcement, DHS. Sometimes they will bring in ATF. I mean, it's the whole point of the fusion centers happened after 9/11, when we realized that our intelligence gathering wasn't coordinated. So now there's these coordinated centers, and a lot of them in urban cities. But Google it and read about them. So is it perfect? Absolutely not. There's tracking also that's done, by private enterprises as well. I mean, the technology is there, guys. The technology is there, and it's tracking hate, it's tracking extremism, and hopefully it can track these horrible posts when it comes up and just put it on the radar. But
they used it during COVID as well. You have to remember they used it during COVID as well.
Absolutely.
And that was across, so that's why the danger is like Meta. How much do they right? How much can they muddle, tamper your book?
Is there some way? Hold on, I'm not done. I wasn't done. Is there some way? Let me just ask two more questions, Abby. Is there some way to combine that with the whatever software or depository that the gun shops use to do the screening or to check people?
Well, that would be. That's interesting, isn't it? Because that's ATF. that really oversees that. But it's interesting. There probably is. Remember, everything is still within the confines of what our law is and what our surveillance rights are. And there's there's issues as to whether stuff gets collected outside of the government and then forwarded on as tips to the government. I mean, there's some of that happening as well. But the technology is definitely there to do it. That's a question you might have with your member of Congress or someone.
State senators. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, and then the last question I have for the room: does anyone know? Maybe it's not out there yet, but do we know how many minutes he was shooting for before he shot himself?
I don't know. I'll look it up right now for you.
Okay, I couldn't find it because the reason I ask is I'm always curious when these things happen. Like at what point? Because I know I saw somewhere where some parents, some fathers, supposedly were there, and that they blocked his access to get in. And I was a little confused about that. But I'm just wondering, was anyone at this school or at the church grounds carrying? Because my kids go to a small Christian private school, and there are individuals who work on site who always carry or have access quickly to guns, but you don't know who it is. They keep that a secret. But it's just hard for me to envision how many clips was he able to get off? How many before nobody had a gun? Nobody was able to intervene with a gun. That's the part I'm curious.
Well, it's a couple things. Number one, it's been so long since I've been in church, a Catholic church, where this would have happened. Something tells me they might not even have anybody that's carrying. I could be wrong.
They wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, the Catholic Church, I just wouldn't picture them allowing it. But then, too, he was firing from the outside, from, it's my understanding, a narrow opening. And I think it was so narrow that he couldn't even necessarily see who he was hitting. So I guess that would...
I was just going to say, so there was reports this morning that he tried to go through the front door, but he was stopped by some adults. And that's the reason why he then walked on the sidewalk in the windows that you're speaking of, Pete. There's those 4 single windows with really narrow openings. Those are the 4 that he went through. But yeah, that's what the reports were saying. He was stopped by the front door.
And to answer you, we put plate glass. We plate on the synagogues now. I mean, that's one of the things we've done nationally is we've plated our windows and our glass. I mean, we've retrofit our facilities exactly for this. So and it's very different. And I think you're going to see the Archdiocese make some significant changes. I actually was talking to someone where I live that they were meeting with Metro, where I am, to start changing exactly the protocol when people go into church. But for us, we have I can't go into synagogue without metal detectors, and there's definitely people that are there to protect. The significant amount of guards, and then private, plain clothes. But you're going to see that with more places of worship than you're used to seeing now.
And I was just going to say, even if somebody was carrying, I don't know if it was made out of brick or what, but I mean, it didn't sound like you'd really, especially with the handgun, you'd have an opportunity to hit him from inside the church. It was just a really shitty situation overall.
I don't. Maybe someone can help me that is in gun speak. Last time I held a gun, I cried. Sorry, I just did it. But they said there were more than 100 shell casings found. So what does that mean? Is that a lot or little?
That's just over three magazines.
Yeah, he fired 3 magazines if it was an AR. He may have got 3.5, maybe if it was over 100. It just depends on the number of the casings, and it depends on the number of weapons he had with him. So that's all that means.
He had 3 weapons. It says there was a rifle, and then there was shotgun, 3 shotgun rounds, and then he also had a handgun, but a bullet got trapped and it jammed in the chamber.
So he stovepiped his handgun, which is a blessing because you can see that then that wasn't proficient ability to clear that. That's usually just a slide and sweep back. And then you have your AR. It sounds like the AR platform was the one that was primarily used, and he went through 3 mags on that. Unless he had an extended mag, which generally
he did have one. He did have one.
Oh, he did.
What looked like he's holding it up as it had the writing on it. It looked like a 60-round magazine.
Then he did 2 mags.
Yeah,
I'm
Holly.
not trying to act cavalier about it. I'm very practical on it.
Holly, I'm scouring and I'm not seeing any update or information on how long he was actively shooting. Just the round.
Okay.
Stovepiping means that the round that's being ejected somehow gets locked in to the slide mechanism, and it will not trigger another round to be ratcheted in or slid into holding from the magazine on the pistol. So you just have like a shell casing that's jammed in there, and you have to sweep it back, and you have to pull it back, clear it, and sweep back with your hand. And then you'll slide it a couple times, and it's just following with the ejector. It happens with shitty ammo a lot of the times, and improper gas pressures that aren't able to do a full extraction of the shell from once it's been fired.
As far as 30 rounds, I mean, I could do that easily under a minute, well under a minute. If he just has like a mil-spec trigger, like a standard trigger, like you'd use in the military, I mean, that could have really quickly, like.
So you think it could have been minutes?
No, I would guess it didn't even last 2 minutes. I mean,
Wow.
You can fire rounds off really quickly. If you have some triggers they have a much lighter pull in travel, so you can rounds a lot quicker. But I'm just guessing he had just like a mil-spec, like a standard trigger, which you could easily do that between a minute or 2.
Not that it matters, right? Because the whole point is to inflict as much damage as you can in a small amount of time. And then when you can no longer, for whatever reason, off yourself, unalive yourself. But in that time, depending on the weapon that you have, it could be 1 minute, it could be 5 minutes. People are going to lose their lives quickly and horribly. So, it is what it is. But Abby, I was going to say that Palantir, part of their project, is to they're going to aggregate data from every platform, whether it be social media or just any online web that can be traced to your IP, that can be traced back to you. And so their algorithms are going to do more than just look for keywords. They're also going to look for like patterns. Where have you said it? What type of social media do you use? Right? Where are you making these statements? Are you in a room that has? Because we know that there are whole quote unquote online communities that hype each other up to do these mass shootings. The black kid who shot up his school, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, the one who called himself a Nazi, he was a part of a online chat group and, very much encouraged. What was that, Pennsylvania? I don't remember.
I don't know if you were in here earlier. We discussed this. There's a whole new thing. We're we're not going to go down there because we spent a lot of time talking to that and getting. We actually have an, I guess I would say, quasi pseudo expert who actually works in this field. He's going to come back. He's going to get in touch with KK, and we're actually going to do like an expose and a deep dive. We're going to have where's my other guy? What's his name? Pete or whoever. He's going to come back, and we've got a couple other people that are going to go. And it's called Telegram. I didn't know about this. But we're going to hold an expose on that and a deep dive in it. So I don't want to go too much back down this because we spent like a good hour having this guy explain the high level, and we're going to get more into it as we go.
I mean, I could tell you as somebody who's spoken with these people years ago, I just call them accelerationists. But most of them are neo-Nazis. Like, these guys are batshit fucking crazy. Like, we'll save it for the other room.
Yeah, I definitely, and if I can find one that is part of that group and bring them on, I definitely want to hear it. I want to interview them. I'm not afraid of them. Like, I would love to do a lot more to them. I promise I'll hug and cuddle them and call them George as I put them quietly to the great beyond. But I do want to interview them. I want to find out more. I'm curious as to why this only in January 13th of 2025 was given the designation of a terrorist group, and that we actually know who these people are and where they're hiding in 3 separate countries, where these leaders are, and we haven't done anything to extradite them. And both administrations, Biden and Trump, have recognized the fact that this group is very much a problem. So we're going to deep dive, King. Don't worry. Tune in, follow the room, people, and we're definitely going to have this expose. We'll be advertising it once I get some more notes together and KK does her spirit finger thing. We're going to get this going.
So there was another mass shooting, 1 dead, looks like 6 shot, the day before this in Minneapolis. It was in broad daylight in the middle of the day. Suspected shooter fired approximately 30 rounds. Holy shit. Jeez. Just the day before.
But the ballistics, so it's not the same person, right?
No. I'm reading right now about the story. Police arrived at the scene. They found a man dead.
Yeah, in Minnesota, I want to just add something. Minneapolis and St. Paul, it used to be beautiful. It was the St. Paul Winter Carnival was great. The Jazz and Blues Festival, one of the best I've ever been to. That's a shit show now. As somebody from Minnesota, I tell you, unless you're going up to Boundary Waters, Grand Marais, it's beautiful there. Split Rock, Goose Falls, 2 Harbors, Bemidji. Even then, I'd be careful around Bemidji. There's no reason to go to Minnesota. I mean, and it's a shame because it is literally so beautiful. You could go see Walnut Grove. Go ahead, go enjoy it. You'll be shocked at the culture that's there, which is all Hmong. Like literally mountain people who came down from Asia. The whole town is nothing but Hmong, and they celebrate Laura Ingalls as if she was like the founding saint of the Wild West and America itself. They put on pageants, they restore homes, they have artwork, and the food is fantastic, and they do a whole lot. But the whole town is Hmong. It's fascinating. You can go see Plum Creek. It's literally all in Minnesota. It's beautiful. The Mars Factory Spam Museum. It's all great. However, it's just since Jacob Fry and a lot of leftists really involved, I really haven't fostered that sense of community. When I first got there, it was all green, beautiful, and people tend to smile. There was problems. I'm not discounting it. Like the cops are assholes. Like I'm just going to say that, but. There was like I said, it's like people took pride in where they were from. They took pride in their parks. They really had a lot of gripes about how civic leaders needed to start cracking down on a lot of things. And then COVID happened, and those poor people, it was most of the loudest ones were the ones you wouldn't think. They were saying, please send in the cops, please stop this, please, please. And now it's a shell. And I've taken people up there to show them. One of the famous ones was Greg Sotelo off this app, and he came up and he went, this is horrifying. I've seen Minnesota. I've seen Minneapolis. He goes, it was 5 years ago. It did not look like this. It's a burnt hulk of what it was, and this is what you got. So if you go up north, or maybe go a little south and just go visit Walnut Grove and have fun.
But Brad, what does that have to do with mass shootings, though? Like Sandy Hook, I'm sure, was in a beautiful, well-off community, and many of these shootings are in well-off communities. Like, what does any of it have to do with it? Like, I don't believe that this is a problem that you have to be in a trailer park to experience. You can be on the upper rung of the socioeconomic ladder.
Where are the majority of these shootings happening?
What do you mean? Like,
what type of schools are these happening in? Because someone didn't pick this up. We went from white Christian nationalists.
What were Parkland? What type of schools?
What type of schools? Where are the schools located at? Are they urban schools?
We know that's no.
Okay. So why are there not mass school shootings in urban schools? They're easy targets.
They have security measures.
There you go. Bingo, there's start one. Well, they have security measures.
Right, but also there's shootings in Target. There's shootings at church. This shooting was a shooting inside of a church. I mean, it was at students who were a part of the schools, but don't forget about the synagogues. I think the last.
Okay, so now you're looping in everything. You just went from schools, and I told you where are the vast majority of the school shooting. Wait, hold on, stop. Where are the vast majority of school shootings happening? They're happening in soft target-rich areas, such as suburban areas. Because, the PTA wants the look of a great school, but they don't want to spend money on security measures. They'd rather spend $150 on a new high school football stadium than give the kids band, art, and security protections. You don't want to spend it. Everybody wants the last thing they spend on is to be secure, which is fascinating to me in America, because over in Europe and other places, the reason you don't have a lot of violence on the schools is because they actually invest in security. They have measures in place. You should look at what France do.
They don't have weapons on the scale of the United States. But and also, that we don't want to pay for anything hardly with tax dollars anymore. So, I mean, all of the things that you mentioned, they sound great, but once it's time to start figuring out where the money is going to come from, people, even the people that have to vote on these types of things, they all of a sudden forget, right? Because as we've forgotten before, and we will forget again, the way people feel and having all these conversations, because this has happened too many times. It's the norm, right? Nothing's going to change.
I just got through telling you.
I will add, Finley. Go ahead. One quick note about the soft targets. So Florida schools, because we've had a couple school shootings down here, there's deputies at every school, including the one in which the deputies failed to respond. Also, Florida State, which is a major university, Go Noles, also they have campus police, and there was a school shooting. I think Virginia Tech is the same. So, but I wanted to make sure again that it's not just security at urban schools, because they have shootings as well. It's the randomness of the school shootings that is happening. And again, I think it's this idea that it ain't going to happen here out of this group. That's what I think.
So this is such an easy problem to fix. After 9/11, our government and crazy. There's about 90 of public schools in the United States. There's about over 8 million unemployed veterans. Veterans who are trained in weaponry already took an oath to lay their life down for our country. Put 2 fucking guards in every school. 2 unemployed veterans in every school. Have a staff of 5. Let them rotate for lunch, whatever. This ends tomorrow. There has to be a political motivation to take care of this problem. The fact that we're still discussing this problem in 2025 actually mind-boggles me. I'm done. Thanks.
But I'm just curious though, like,
There's officers here in Florida, Andy, and we still have school shootings. We have deputies at almost every school.
So
We still have school.
one of the other things to note is as new school facilities are built, they're built with security measures taken into the architecture. So it's interesting because, Brad, you're right, they're softer targets, but in actuality, a lot of the newer schools probably have in the physical location vestibules and areas to deter the entrance or to go through certain security measures that you probably don't have in the urban schools. Yet it's interesting they're penetrating and getting through.
So no security system's ever 100%. Hold on. In my experience, I have witnessed this, that people pay the least amount for security. So I don't know what the guards are making in Florida. I'm assuming 30 to 40K. Maybe they're making
deputies. They're sheriff's deputies.
I don't know what they're making, so that means nothing to me. But my point is that I just watched Texas put in a $150 million high school football stadium. Now they've cut programs. It's a big freaking school, but they've cut programs, and they complained about it. And I sat there and I said, that is a massive target environment. It's a huge school system. And I go, so I'm confused. Like, what upgrades did you do to security? And when I looked, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything proposed except for like one additional guard at $33,000 a year part-time, which I said, that's not going to cut it these days. Like, I'm sorry, we live in a more modern world with all the advancements in technology, not even just taking guns out of the way, but just like looking at what you have going on. Like we removed the responses to bullying. Like bullying never left. We never changed bullying. We don't need to bring bullying back. It just never left. What we changed was how we were allowing people to respond to bullying. Instead of going knock that guy back on his feet or girl, now all of a sudden it's you have to use your feelings and you have to repress all this rage and anger and humiliation you have, and we'll work it out through drawings and puppy love and Skittles. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. You'd have to ask one of them. I just think that we took a wrong turn somewhere. And if you're really serious about protecting your schools, you need to get rid of holocaust doors. There's already been a study out there. $250,000 would actually increase the odds of you having survive a shooter attack in your school. And it was $250,000 per school across the U.S.
Brad, did you see
surveillance? There's also laws. You have to look at your state, because not all the states allow certain surveillance, license plate readers, facial recognition. Some states have a ban on it, but for the states that allow it, if you've got a car that's like circling a little too many times around your school, AI picks that up, and AI can, just as you were talking about, can see patterns, but they can also see it with the camera systems. And if something seems out of the ordinary, they have plate readers, and they can track it. It goes right into your Metropolitan Police, and they're going to investigate it. So, but not all states.
You there? You're in the matrix, Abby.
In the camera.
You're in the matrix, Abby.
Yeah, we heard not all states, and then you went on silent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not all
can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So not all states have it legal to have plate readers and facial recognition. For the states where it's legal, you have surveillance, and you have between AI and regular surveillance. If a car is circling around a school in it too many times, or in an abnormal way, they're going to pick up on it, and the cameras are going to trigger a dive into reading the plates. And again, it's not all states allow this. The same thing with facial recognition. You're going to have, if someone is in the perimeter or the curtilage of a property and their face pops up on the camera, that's going to be triggered into facial recognition. If the person is then ID'd as someone either with a record, or they're even going to look at if someone has tats on their neck that are,
white supremacist hats, or I don't know, you come up with something. They're going to look at their surveillance videos, but they'll use facial recognition. It's not in all states. Like in Florida, where you're talking about, you can do this, but you can't do it. I think like Illinois, you can't do it. You know, my state, is probably the number one state where you can, because we've had this, you know, because of our industry. But you should look at your state laws and how much they can protect vis-a-vis the plate readers and the facial recognition.
Brad, did you see on the news, I think it was last week or the week before, this happened in Seattle, right on the ocean front, where that guy pulled out a gun and shot the vet that was in the wheelchair because he said that he was doing some type of stolen valor shit. Did you see that?
Yeah, I briefly saw it. It came across it. That's a whole different scenario.
No. It really isn't, because my point is, if you observed the response of the children, there were several children in the frame, right? If you would observe the response of the children knew exactly what to do, right? To get the hell out of the way. And again, I think that we're trying to do all of this brainstorming, and people want to act like they're going to produce any type of problem solving at this point, where we lost the plot years ago. And we've already, you know, produced a generation of children that are already like almost like war torn in a way. Like, they know what I don't know if you've been listening to these kids describing what they went through yesterday. They're not shocked. They know, because they've heard the story. They're familiar with it. This is the norm. And I feel like we got to stop jerking ourselves off, trying to feel better about it, and accept that that's kind of what we've chosen as a society. And this is just kind of what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be.
So I will say this:
you're not going to protect your children from not only being shot, but I feel like, you know, you're talking about trauma, robbing children of their innocence, exposing children to extreme violence. Like in real life, people talk about the video games, but we're talking about live and in color in real life. And, you know, we can't act like this is not the norm, and that we didn't choose this.
So I come from a generation that was doing duck and cover drills for nuclear war with our desks. Apparently the desk from the 80s and the early 90s was sufficient enough to withstand nuclear blast. I think we should bring those back, because if they could handle nuclear bombs, what the hell, man? We just use those. I also had you know, the fear. I was a latchkey kid. I was literally a predator's wet dream. Like, if there was a non-paneled white van with no windows on the back, I was probably the target they were looking for, because I walked around with a house key around my neck on a string. Not even a chain. We were so broke we could only afford string. And God help you if you lost that fucking thing. So yes, I grew up in a generation that was scared, and we had to immediately walk home. We didn't have cell phones. No one gave a shit. The only time your parents knew who they had kids was when the news came on and it said, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? That was their, like, oh shit, I have kids? Okay, so there's a little tongue-in-cheek in there, but that's literally how I grew up. And I'm going to tell you something, like, every generation has this fear. Like, we had kids that thought bombs were going to go off. They thought Russia was going to invade. We had movies. We had media. We had news coverage that was inundating us with, like, we're all going to be, what was that movie, Red Dawn or something? Patrick Swayze, a whole bunch of kids, like, fending off the entire Russian army. We were all going to be that. We were like, yep, I'm going to have my ear pierced, a handkerchief on my thing. I'm going to look like the boss with a cap folded in my back pocket, and I'm going to kill a whole lot of Ruskies. That was literally how we grew up. So I get the point. Yes, I don't want kids to be traumatized, but kids are traumatized every generation.
Brad, we train, so I hate to break this to King, but we train our our kids what to do with active shooters. We have drills with them. We now had this new initiative with the summer camps because the summer camps were so at risk. So we have to put in, and those are exposed. If you ever went to camp where they're located, they're usually remote. They're on lakes with access, public access, and we have to train the children. We train them at our community centers, at our schools. We used to just have to train the staff. Now they have to know what to do, how to evacuate if there's a bomb scare. However, what Brad is saying, when I was a kid, we went under our desk for fear that the Soviets were going to bomb us. We had these drills in public school, so it's not.
If you go to old schools, you'll see the radiation signs.
Yeah.
There'll be a door. It'll have radiation. It'll be a fallout zone shelter.
I remember that.
I was here.
Yeah, they ushered us down there with some kooky guy with a green uniform. Yeah, hold on. They ushered us down there with some janitor in a green button-down shirt and green pants, and he was like, "Come in here, kids. I'll protect you." And we're all like, "Who gave this guy permission to collect 40 fucking kids and huddle us in the dark in some fucking room in the basement of a high school?" We were like living Freddy Krueger's nightmare. Like, that's how I grew up. So I get the trauma on the kids. I understand it. And I wish I could have just said, hey, it's going to get better, but there's going to be a new trauma. Like, you have an online threat with kids today. That's what's actually plaguing you. It's not the gun violence. It's the incitement to it online, which apparently is a triggering thing. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's a cultural thing. Like, we have to examine why is it overwhelmingly boys? What is it that we're doing wrong with raising men? Because clearly we're doing something fucking wrong, right? Everybody in agreement with that? We're doing something wrong if we're creating mass shooters who go to school when they graduate saying, life's too hard, I need to shoot up everybody.
People murdered back in the 80s too, like the murder is not new. It's the scale of the impact that a person can make with the type of arms they have available to them now.
I was pointing to.
We saw presidents be assassinated. We saw that, right, on TV, right?
But it's not the weapons.
How many of us, if we're going to sit in any type of empathy for our children, how many of us, when you went to school and we did not only nuclear drills where we got under the table, but we had to do severe weather drills. I'm not stupid. Like, I know that you can't really shield a child from potential catastrophe, and catastrophes happen. But this is not a natural disaster. This is not a natural disaster. It's a norm, and I think that again, people always take for granted shit that they never had to go through.
But what is the difference between back then?
Our generation was not being mowed down in churches, in shopping malls, and that didn't happen until Columbine.
Wait, stop. Pete, I'm gonna let you go, and then Pete's gonna go next because he was talking about the business. But I'm gonna say this. I'm calling bullshit on that because literally I can go from the country's inception and foundation to say that that's bullshit where kids were not afraid. There's various groups that have came over here that were imported, that were enslaved here, that had to worry about other groups and be deterred. America is not for the hey, stop, mute up. Thank you. Other people are going to talk, and not just King. But I'm telling you right now that kids, since America's start and inception of a country, have been plagued every fucking generation by some trauma that has existed, whether it be savage Indians, as they quoted back in the day, to fear of black people, to Russians, to Asians. You would be shocked at the number of kids that have to go through every generation there's been trauma. Anti-Semitism, the fucking Germans, Japanese were going to kill and eat their kids. Like, that shit really went on here, and every kid grew up under the banner of it. So I'm going to go to Pete, but every kid gets
so fuck it. Yeah, like, All right.
King, I already said King's gonna
We
go.
already saw. Go ahead.
Can I go after the next guy?
So I was just gonna say, I just find this all ridiculous to listen to. Okay, in the 80s, especially for like 1987, the types of firearms you could get was actually a lot. The availability was a lot easier. A lot of the guns were a lot easier to alter and turn into machine guns and that kind of stuff. And I would say, yeah, okay, the school shootings seem to be more of a thing now. But it's not because suddenly we have different types of weapons that are more lethal. That's not the case whatsoever. And even then, yeah, there's more school shootings. But if you were to look at when homicides and gun violence reached their peak, it was in the late 80s and early 1990s. The whole meme about murders in schools happened mainly in urban high schools, because these kids were shooting each other at school and after school. So I guess you kind of deny that there is a problem with the people, as opposed to everybody wants to look at the guns, I think, but why is it that we have this problem now and didn't before?
So I agree with the idea of there is an issue with how we're raising boys. I've said this a few times. That is an issue, but this specific issue of school shooting is on the rise, and we figured out the 80s violence, right? You deal with gangs, you get these young guys either back on track or you put them in jail, right? We figured it out. We've not added a particular bad actor, right? And that's a problem. But I will say this, and I'll say it 30 times. Like, you cannot underestimate the fact that there is a problem with our boys. There is a major problem with our freaking boys. And we gloss over it like, yeah, the girls, but we gloss over that major fact because they're not only shooting up schools and violence, dude, there's a uptick in youth crime in a lot of cities, a big uptick. And it's only going to get worse if we don't deal with these young men and get them on some type of path.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Blake.
Well, I have to agree with, some of the points Finley and people make. It's like, look, we actually did not figure out gangs and stuff. We understand them a little more, but we haven't figured out how to deal with gang crime. The same kind of crime that we're dealing with in our cities, our inner cities right now, with young men with nothing to do, running around, stealing and killing. That's the truth. It's our sons. It's y'all people's sons up the streets. It's everybody's fucking sons out here doing this stuff. And the difference between now and then is actually some neighborhoods were actually safe in the early 80s. If it wasn't touched by crack, cocaine, and gangs, you were able to go on some blocks, and some people understood, especially even the kids knew, like, that's not a block we can play on. Like, we can't hit licks over there. That's but now it's no holds barred. Like, whatever the impulse is at the moment, that's what's going to happen on the streets. And the people who are unarmed and unprotected from them are the same people who are unarmed and unprotected when somebody does a specific type of crime in which we freak out about, mass shootings. Now, what we fail to understand or we keep ignoring is the statistics that we have for the amount of mass shootings in America are all grouped in a bunch with the ones we deal with more often, and that's, young black male shooting up like 3 or 4 people, pulling up on the ops, as they say, might hit 3 or 4 people. Half of the targets were innocent, had nothing to do with their squabble. So that's the kind of mass shootings we usually deal with, and those are the numbers that are being clumped in for somebody to be able to make a national statement saying that mass shootings are on the rise in America. It's like, no, the same kind of shootings have been going on, and we've never figured out how to deal with that. But these school shootings and shootings at airports and stuff, it's just the same symptom of, it's not about trying to take the weapons from the people. It's trying to figure out how to get more people to understand that nobody's coming for you.
Nobody's going to fucking save you. You are the ultimate beginning and end and responsibility for the protection of you and the people you are responsible for. Yes, we have laws. Yes, we have policemen. Yes, we have authorities. But at the end of the day, they have shown and proven that they show up when the crime has already been committed to solve the crime of your murder, your robbery, your rape. That's what happens when you depend on a system. So it's not to blame victims, but until we get the same attitude we have about protecting money in America as protecting our kids, saying statements like maybe the kids should not be held up in an unarmed fashion. You know, they shouldn't be held in a single place, a single location, unarmed, without any armed to protect them. Because we protect our money. Like Bring TV. Don't think you go just place that has loads of money or anything that's working that, like, the problem is right in front of your face. You're scared to protect kids. You want somebody else to protect them. That's
right, and we protect our guns.
Thanks. Hold on just a second. Excuse me.
Can I get back in the queue, KK?
Yeah, well, not yet. Hold on, excuse me. Okay, not right. Thank you. Just a minute, please. We're going to be closing down the room soon, and I want to just give last call for anyone that's in the goo that wants to come up and speak. Now is your chance, because we're going to turn off hand raising. Also, before we let Mr. Finley and Queen also start have a share, I want to give an opportunity for those who have been on stage that has not spoken yet, like Annie and Jules and perhaps Mike, the opportunity to speak. Flash your mic or come off mic if you want to speak now. Okay, great. So ladies first, let's go Annie, then Jules, please. Go ahead.
Good evening to everybody on stage and in the audience. I live in Arizona. I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment. I was a victim of gun violence, which is why I'm a fan of the Second Amendment. All of my husband and I's children have gone through a school district which was recently, within the last 5 years, implemented armed security. So in addition to having a school resource officer provided by the city, which is grant funded, they work at each school. They work in conjunction with armed security that is taxpayer funded, that was spearheaded by a retiring police officer, and that's what the foundation is built on, with a group of veterans. And it was voted on, passed, and funded. It is possible. Force must be met with equal force, and it has to be done immediately. That's the only way we're going to protect our kids. Love y'all.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you. I have a history in the military community, and even some of my friends that are retired or out, they have done that. They did that a couple of times all across the country. Is they kind of just set up a presence known, just to be like, if it just kind of a force of presence then might deter any future issues. Go ahead, Mr.
Hey, thank you. I agree with everybody, what you're saying, and I think the root problem, the FBI said today that the Minnesota school shooter was a person with a hate agenda. You can't say no, of course, duh, he has a hate agenda. But you have to look at what this country is doing. We're bringing in people that have an American hate agenda. Whether they came in through the borders, they have no respect, they hate America. Whether we're bringing in college students from other countries that hate America, spit on America. College professors are coming in from other countries that can't stand America,
Jules,
hate America.
Are you talking about immigration right now? Because we're talking about the school shooting in Minnesota.
Yes, but
okay.
I'm talking
sure.
about this person had a hate agenda, is what the FBI said. We have a country full of hate agendas. We elect members of Congress with a hate agenda. George Soros wants these things to happen in America. He hates America. So this child or this transsexual, whatever, got the agenda of hate because it's drilled into him, just like it's drilled into the other haters I mentioned for America. And that's why it's happening. You know, you have to respect America. You can't hate America. If you want to live in America, you can't just hate America. And with guns, everybody's blaming the guns. Of course, a person like that should not have had a gun. And we could see till tomorrow it's not going to happen where they're going to be prevented from getting guns. But we got to get the hate that's being taught in all around the world about